Yay! Thank you for the subscription to POW. I appreciate it. Now let me just... There we go. That's what I want my camera to do. Alright. I did get like a little ring light and it's like not helping as much as I'd hoped it would for making my face look less orangey. Hello, iStarmy! Alright. Okay. This one is the game, and as always, let's watch the opening together. Well, once it loads. Pending. It'll get there. It'll get there eventually. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm excited. I feel like we're gonna start getting into some climactic action. As I recall, last time we left off with Claude being kind of a dick, honestly. Sorry for slightly harsher language than I am accustomed to using, but that's interesting. Oh my goodness, the shirt that I'm wearing hits the green screen effect. It's fine. Anyway. But yes, so. When last we left our intrepid main character and surrounding things. I can never decide if I actually want to talk over or not talk over the opening. I want to test this out. Yep. It's amazing. 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 I love it. Hello, Nathan! So you can see we're still doing the TV. So I did get a ring light, but I don't have a good place to set it up, so it's not... Well, what if I did it like... I'm trying to be less orangey. Let's try one different thing. Well, that actually kind of works. Okay, no, that's just in front of my face. It's also kind of in front of my face. Alright, well, I don't want it to block the game, though, so... Well, better than it was, I suppose. Uh-oh. One of these days, I'll think to take the extra time to, like, futz with my settings and my physical arrangement of things before I start going live, but today was not that day. Alright, anyway. Yeah, I know. I should figure out how to make... I think I basically just need an extension, a USB extension cord, because it just doesn't reach... The cord doesn't reach far enough for it to go right where my camera is. Like, I can tell where would be the ideal place to put it, I just can't make it reach there. So, I'll look into that as a next step. But I still think this is slightly better than it was. Anyway. Picking up from chapter 8. So, yes, so last we left things. Jurian and Garland are actually a couple now, which is great, and they're very, very adorable. Claude has been in a mood, like, real bad mood TM, and it kind of, so surely some of it is to do with his curse and the details of it that we don't know, but it also kind of genuinely seems like some of it is him being like, I swore I'd never love again, and I'm pissed off that I have somehow fallen in love again. And Lucette very rightly told him off for being kind of a jerk to her. and was very sad about it. Okay. Chapter 8, The Lost Prince. Jurian. Keep your stance straight, princess. Jurian gives me the warning, but too late on purpose. I can see the smile on her face as she effortlessly slides past my defenses and taps me on the shoulder with her wooden sword. Jurian. I got you. Lucette, thinking to herself. Again. For the last few days, I have been practicing with Jurian and Garland because Claude still hasn't come out of his room. The knights offered to train me. Wow, Claude is just literally has locked himself in his room and refuses to come out. Wait, is this the correct chapter? It was chapter 8, right? Suddenly doubting myself, because I think last time I went a little bit into the chapter by mistake, and that's why some of this is familiar. Okay. The knights offered to train me, and right now they are teaching me about ways to hold a sword. Lucette, thinking to herself. This is slow, but Claude did tell me I wouldn't be able to master the sword so quickly. Claude. That was maybe not quite the right voice. Claude, like, it's clearly a pensive, supposed to be sort of a pensive tone. He made me so angry that one day that I could not even properly give him my gift. Yet, I still feel sad that he is not here teaching me himself. Jurian. Come on, princess, focus! I jolt out of my reverie and nod at Jurian. Lucette. Okay. I ready myself for her next strike, and once again get tapped, this time on the hip. Garland takes over after Jurian, and then we do rounds where I try to hit them with certain strikes. They are both good at teaching, but it does not feel the same as Claude's instruction. His lessons seemed less like they were out of a book. Garland. Don't worry, princess. It always starts out slow. Jurian. Lon was just as slow at training, but look at him now. Garland whips his head around in Jurian's direction, his face turning deep red. Garland. Jurian, that nickname. Jurian. But you're so much fun to tease, Lon. She beams at him and then laughs at his embarrassed face. I love them! They are such a cute couple. I'm so happy for them. Our practice goes on for a few more minutes before the knights tell me to wrap up for the night. Lucette. I think I am going to stay out here for a little bit. Jurian. Princess, you know it's dangerous out here at night. Lucette. If I don't return in 10 minutes, you can come back and check on me. Jurian seems unconvinced, but she eventually nods. Jurlon forever. Yes, I agree. They're so cute. Jurian. Fine, but keep your guard up, princess. I watch the two knights as they head back. I see Garland put his arm around Jurian's waist, pulling her closer. Precious! Lucette's not in a great mood, a great place to appreciate it since she is on the rocks with her love interest, but ugh, precious. I turn away from the sight, ignoring the heavy feeling in my stomach. Lucette thinking to herself, I'll just practice the swings for 5 more minutes. The only thing I hear in the clearing while I practice is my shallow breathing and the wind in my ears. Something breaks my concentration, however. I see a glimmer of color in the forest, and I instantly stop, my hands growing tense on the wooden sword. Lucette thinking to herself, what was that? I glance around at my surroundings, and then I freeze when I feel a hand on my shoulder. I can feel someone's breath on my neck. Lucette thinking to herself, this all feels familiar. Is this Claude? Let's see. Alright, so we have a choice. There is put your hand over his, which is the sweet option, or turn and point your sword at him, which is probably the option I'm going to choose because it feels kind of appropriate to she mad at him. And also, it's part of his whole training thing. He was all like, you know, I think she's right here when she thinks, so Lucette thinking to herself, I am pretty sure I recognize Claude's hand, but because I know it's him, I also know what he'd want me to do. And I think she is also right there. It's not just that she's mad at him, it's also that, like, yeah, that's what I'm realizing once it got to Lucette's inner dialogue. It is also the correct choice. It makes sense as the correct choice because it's appropriate to their sword training exercises. And, you know, T'Pau, you are right. She's not sure who it is, so it is the safer option, which is why Claude would want her to take it. Yeah, it's about doing the best for her training. I duck away from his hand and turn quickly to point my sword. The tip of the wood is at his neck, and for a few stunned moments, I think I've won. Even Claude looks surprised. Lucette thinking to herself, it's really him. But then Claude's hands have moved, and he has one hand over my wrist and the other on my sword. Claude. Good, Lucette. You recognized you had an opening, but you broke your concentration. Lucette. Claude. I feel like I'm not doing the right emotion or energy into her saying his name because she's got a lot of complicated feelings about him right now. And I feel like I'm not quite doing it justice in my vocalizations, but I'll try. I'll try my best. Claude removes his hands, allowing me to lower my sword. Claude. I'm sorry, Lucette. I feel my breath catch in my throat when Claude holds out the rose pendant that I got for him. I feel my cheeks flush. Yep. Claude. You accidentally left this beautiful thing in my room when I came to return it. Lucette. Return it? Claude. Yes, you left it in my room, so I thought it appropriate to bring it back to you. Lucette thinking to herself. Does he really think I left it there on accident? Out loud. Why would I leave it in your room on accident? Claude. What? Lucette. I bought it for you, and I wanted to give it to you, but you were acting so strangely, and... Claude's eyes widen, the surprise clear on his face. Claude. Lucette, you bought this for me? Oh, sorry, I just missed an earlier thing from chat to Pao saying, and it underscores that she isn't taken with him the way women affected by his curse would be. That's also a really good point. I think you make a really good point, and that's one of the reasons why the affectionate options rarely work with him, because he's way too used to that in a way that he's had too much of that in an uncomfortable way, so it makes sense that he would respond well to someone acting non-standardly. Oh, hello, John! Yeah, the go live notifications can be late sometimes. 20 minutes is not uncommon. But hello! Thanks for stopping in. You haven't missed too much so far this chapter. We've mostly just had Lucette training with Jurian and Garland. Jurian and Garland being kind of cute together because they are always cute together. And Claude coming to apologize and return this beautiful rose pendant that she clearly accidentally left in his room, and not like it could have been a gift for him. Oh, hey! Thank you for doing the shout out to Pao. And since you're both mods, you know what? I appreciate you doing that to Pao, especially because John is 2 followers away from 50 for the affiliate minimum, and also, while we're at it, T'Pau should be shouted out as well, and I'm gonna say, hey John. Yeah, there we go, that's what I was gonna ask for. Yay. Uh-oh, my bot doesn't have permissions for my emojis anymore. Fixing that now, just one moment. The gifted sub ran out. Thank you so much, Stream Elements, for letting me gift you subs so you will use my emotes. Alright. Okay. Lucette, okay, so Claude has just found out that Lucette has just informed him that, no, I did not leave that rose necklace in your room on accident. I left it there on purpose because it's a gift for you. Lucette, thinking to herself, why does he look so shocked? Claude looks at me in awe for a few moments. His eyes go back down to the locket. He traces a finger... Oh, I didn't mean to click the mouse button. He traces a finger around the intricate shape, his eyebrows slowly furrowing. Lucette. It's to thank you for everything that you've done for me. Claude. Lucette. This is beautiful. He lets the chain fall through his fingers as he stares at the rose pendant with adoration. I feel my heartbeat stutter as he turns to regard me with the same gentle smile. He leans forward, and my breathing stops as he reaches out to hold up my glass slipper necklace. Lucette, thinking to herself, he's standing so close to me. Thinking to herself, with very blushy face. Claude. You really are a good person, Lucette. You've completed your second good deed. I think some kind of congratulations is in order. Is there anything you want that I can give to you? I look up at him and notice that Claude's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Lucette, thinking to herself, he still looks so sad. I feel like there is so much that I want from Claude, but I do not want to ask for something that might make him sad. You know, I'm gonna say I want you to smile is actually the sweetest thing, because very, very early on, Karma, like before we knew Claude's real name, in the first few chapters, like, he was very like, smiling is a really good thing, you know, it makes you, you know, you need to be beautiful, like, it makes you beautiful on the inside and that, whatever. Smiling was clearly a thing for him, so I think that I think that this will be nice. A nice answer, I hope. So, I want you to smile. Claude looks at me, his expression puzzled. He chuckles softly. Claude. But I am smiling. Lucette. No, I want a real smile. One that isn't so sad. Claude. Ah, you saw right through me. Lucette. We have been partners for long enough. Claude. How about this one? He smiles a little awkwardly, and the quirk of his lips looks more embarrassed than bright. I raise an eyebrow in confusion. Claude. No need for that look, darling. I really do appreciate your worry for me. Whoa. Uh-oh. That was alarming. That was visually very alarming. Oh, something is not good for Claude. Oh, no. Something is not good. And he, something, I'm sure something to do with this curse, which we still know so little about. Karma suddenly stops. I mean, like, we know the basics of it, rather. We know, you know, we know what the curse is and how it works, but we don't know how to break it. And that's such important information. And we also do not know whatever this horrible consequence is that's clearly happening to him. Karma suddenly stops, eyes wide. He puts his hand on his chest and takes a step away from me, his fingers clutching at the fabric of his shirt. Claude has a pained expression on his face, only making me more anxious. Claude. Not now! Lucette. Claude, are you okay? What's wrong? Claude. Lucette, don't worry about it. He lowers his hand with the pained smile slowly fading from his face. This does little to reassure me. Lucette. Was it my fault that you were locked in your room for so long? Thinking to herself. He just looks so pained to be anywhere near me. Claude. No, most definitely not. I was feeling under the weather. And also bitter. Lucette. Bitter? Thinking to herself. Why would he feel bitter? Yeah, ooh boy, exposition time. I sure hope so! Well, I hope so. Of course, he's now sitting here being like, Claude. But it's not for you to worry about, darling. For now, we should head back. It's late and you need to rest. I just got back from patrol, so I would like to rest as well. Lucette. Is there anything else I can do for you? Claude. No, sweet Lucette. You've already done enough for me. He clutches the rose locket to his chest and sighs out a little with a gentle smile. Lucette, thinking to herself, this smile feels real to me. Claude. This is a beautiful gift, and I will treasure it always. Thank you, Lucette. Now, shall we head back? I nod at him, and we silently walk back to the Marchen. When we make it back to the tavern, I feel tired, but also lighter than I have for weeks. Claude wishes me a good night before slowly walking off to his room, holding the rose locket I gave him tightly. Oh, I want to know what's... I want to know what's wrong! I want to know what's wrong! Oh, it's chapter 8! It should be time for more exposition about this! I guess it wasn't really until the last 2 chapters that things really got properly explained with Rod, but still. Alright. Today I am walking around town to do some errands with Claude. It has been quite a while since we have done this. Though we are here to run errands, there is also something else that drew me into town today. Yesterday, Waltz came back to the Marchen and told us of an announcement the king was making today. Apparently that announcement had been posted for at least a week's time, but Waltz had only caught on to it after hearing about it from the crowds after one of his puppet shows. Lisette, thinking to herself, I am not sure what this announcement entails, but I feel that I need to see the king make it with my own eyes. I can see more people milling about than usual, which means most of them must be waiting for the king to speak. Lucette, thinking to herself, I have a bad feeling about this. It is not strange for the king to make announcements, but this feels so sudden. And with everything else that's happened to me, I feel on edge. I mean, that's legit, because we saw a lot more of the palace intrigue in Rod's route because she was, in the palace the whole time, but this time she's been completely outside of the palace, but one can assume that, all the machinations that were going on with... I mean, we've already heard a lot about, stuff going on with Alcaster from Jurian and Garland, and then, one can assume that one of these days I'll remember his name. What's his face? The mage who's a big fan of her mother, who is in the witch who is a big fan of her mother, who is in the palace as one of the 2 advisors to the king. We haven't heard, anything about him or what he's up to, so... All sorts of things could have gone down to lead up to the... Mithros! Thank you, Mithros. Yes, so we don't know, anything about Mithros's things, and one also can assume that, I know there was the ball in Rod's route, and so it makes me wonder if maybe the ball happened in this route as well, but, without Lucette there, which would alter the timeline a little. And, what if this announcement is Princess Emmeline is engaged to Sir Varg, for example? I don't know. What if Mithros has hypnotized the king into stepping down? Who knows? We'll find out. Claude. Wow, Lucette, you make these bags sound a lot lighter than they'd actually be. Lucette. Stop complaining, Miss Karma. You get valuable experience out of carrying bags. Oh, I dig it. Oh, actually Myth, since Delora revealed this was his real name. Wow, Myth. Real subtle. Mithros. It's alright, I gotta throw people off the trail. My real name is Myth. I gotta change it so that nobody will know it's me. Myth. What if... Mithros? No one will ever know. Sorry. That's just... Hopefully he was just not trying very hard to actually conceal his real name, because that is a really, really bad way to do it. Wow, buddy. Mithros. So subtle. So subtle. Anyway, also, I'm really glad to see that Lucette, this time around, actually did be okay, Karma, you carry some of the bags this time. Okay, there is another reason why people didn't recognize him. Fair enough. I am sure I will learn more about that eventually, if not here, then in another route. So I will look forward to learning more about that. Right. Seeing Claude complain is amusing, especially since I know he can handle the load. Claude. I feel like a servant. Lucette. What does that make me when you made me carry all those bags before? Claude. An assistant? I roll my eyes at him. Lucette. We're both working at the Marchen, you know. And then the thought strikes me. Lucette. What do you even do at the Marchen? Claude looks surprised at my question, but then he quickly smiles at me. I mean, doesn't he go on patrols like Jurian and Garland? I mean, that is a thing that he's doing for the Marchen, but... Oh, whoops. Claude looks surprised at my question, but then he quickly smiles at me. Claude. I train the knights, of course. I also attract customers with my beautiful reputation. I start laughing, and Claude's face flushes. Claude. Darling, I get the feeling you're laughing at me. Lucette. With her cute little smile, aw. I wonder. We finish up the rest of our errands and then sit down in the town plaza to rest. Claude leaves briefly and then returns with a slice of cake for both of us to share as a snack. Lucette thinking to herself, I have a lot of things I want to ask him, and now feels like the right time to do so. Out loud. May I ask you a question? Claude. Of course, darling. Anything. Oh, okay, this is not the question I expected her to ask. I'm not gonna lie. I am immediately on the defensive about how this conversation could go. Yes. Yes, it's because Lucette finally spoke up about having Karma carry the bags. It's because she talked with Waltz and she told Waltz she would do something about the whole carrying bags thing, yep. And I'm glad she did. I'm glad she followed through. By the way, one day I saw a meme on Tumblr about this. I don't remember the username of the person who posted the meme, but well, the meme was Claude says, here, carry all my bags. And I'm gonna hold for a second because I'm very... Oh, is this like all of the love interests and how they would deal with bags? But Claude, here, carry all my bags. Waltz, you can help, but don't carry anything too heavy. I don't know if there are reactions from the other love. Yeah, there we go. Rod, if you carry anything too heavy, I'll fight you myself. Yes. Oh, he did that! He did do that! He literally did that! Oh, he got so mad at Lucette trying to carry things that were too heavy. Amazing. I approve. Rumple, of course. A lady shouldn't have to carry bags. And I'm very interested to hear if there was one for Fritz. So I will hold a moment more and I will take the advantage to do my own hydrate. Oh, Fritz, I'll carry these bags and you. Nice. Nice. I like that. That's really cute. Thanks for sharing. Alright, so I'm a little on the defensive about how this conversation could go. So far, this route has actually been very chill about the cross-dressing, and Karma seems to actually kind of enjoy it. And there ain't nothing wrong with that, but we'll see how this goes down. Yes, it was a very accurate meme. Again, thank you for sharing. That was delightful. Alright, so Lucette is asking Claude, do you enjoy dressing like a woman? Claude, I don't mind it, really. I appreciate the beauty in anything. You girls get to wear quite an assortment of lovely dresses and makeup. It's quite beautiful. I feel more comfortable in my own clothes, but I don't mind dresses. I mean, and then Lucette thinking to herself, I guess if you've had to wear a dress for so long, you'd get used to it. But, like, I mean, also, ain't nothing wrong with just being like, I like, you know, being someone who is, like, completely cis male and just being like, but I like dresses and makeup. They make me feel pretty. That is an A-okay, and I'm honestly really pleased. Like, I was really a little worried about how this could go in terms of, like, representation and, like, you know, trans issues and stuff, but like, gender non-conforming issues more broadly. But yeah, no, actually, I've ended up really appreciating this, because Claude has just been so absolutely chill about presenting gender non-conforming. And that makes me happy. I like seeing things like, yeah, I mean, just being totally chill about wearing, you know, stereotypically girly clothes. So this is good. This is making me happy. Lucette, I have another question. Claude, and what would that be? Lucette, silence. When I was in your room the other day, you spoke about a woman. Were you talking about the witch who cursed you? Claude, oh no, the woman I was talking about. He suddenly goes silent and lowers his head. His expression fades into something more melancholy, and I feel my heart lurch. Lucette, thinking to herself, maybe I shouldn't have brought this up. No, you should have brought it up, because, oh, as Ice Starmie says, exposition time! So excited! Yay, exposition! I want to know things! To my surprise, Claude continues talking. Aww. Oh, I can already see this going poorly. Because shortly after he came to Angiel would be after he'd been cursed, so... Claude. Shortly after I came to Angiel, there was a woman that I met whose smile was radiant as sunshine. She was beautiful, and when she laughed, everything felt right about the world. Lucette, thinking to herself, hearing him talk about her makes me uncomfortable. Am I jealous? Claude watches me quietly, as if he is measuring my expression. Eventually, he goes back to speaking. Claude. I knew her for many months. Time passed, and I thought we were truly in love. And then He goes silent for a few moments, his eyes distant, his expression pained. Claude. Well, some things happened, and I realized she only loved me because of my curse. She was drawn to me just as any other woman is. She seemed so genuine in comparison to the other women, but in the end... Claude trails off and lets out an exasperated sigh. Lucette, you were truly in love with her? Claude, I was. I've dated many women, but I've never fallen in love with someone who has honestly loved me back. Lucette, thinking to herself, so then the last person he loved was that one woman. Claude looks at me, and for a few moments he does not speak. Claude, Lucette, do you mind if I ask you a question? Lucette, no, I don't mind. Claude, have you ever loved anyone? Lucette, oh wow, Lucette, instantly. My mother, of course. Claude, I was referring to a romantic kind of love. Oh, one thing I don't understand is why Lucette was never jealous of Rod's former crush in his route. Here in Claude's route, she's jealous of his former crush. I wish there was a moment like this in Rod's route too, and I don't see why there isn't. That's a fair point. It may have been... my best guess as to why they might have done that... yeah, Rod's former crush was getting married and safely not stealing him. That makes some sense. Also, it took longer for, like... Lucette is only just now getting jealous, like... in chapter 8, so it, like, I think she has to get to a certain point in her feelings for someone before she starts feeling jealous. And I think by the time she really started noticing, even subconsciously, that she was falling for Rod, it was already, like, so well established that Vairika was just not in the picture. That, I mean, I can still see, yeah, it would have been... And also, I actually, in some way, the argument I just tried to make doesn't actually make sense in retrospect. I think the argument that makes more sense for why Lucette wouldn't have had a jealousy moment in Rod's route would be, actually probably more because I could see her being kind of in like, I know I get into sort of a different mindset about things when someone is, like, really struggling. So while I'm looking at it, I'm gonna move my camera up a little. Like, so, and Rod was like, you know, Claude is just reminiscing fondly about a past love that was a little sad. Whereas Rod, like, was much, like, once she actually found out that he was in love with Viorica, it was also, I seem to recall, I feel like I remember that also being... Yeah, I think the order of operations doesn't totally make sense, and I think it was, like, because the focus was more heavily on things are really, really bad for Rod because of his crush, that it ended up being more of a focus on... Yeah, you know, I'm trying to come up with explanations, but I've just kind of landed on two different explanations, neither of which I've been totally satisfied with. So I'm gonna drop it and say that, yeah, no, it would have been completely reasonable for them to have put in a little, like, you know, some part of her feels sad and... Oh, for example, that scene near the end of the route when she asked about the wedding. That's fair. It may be that the writers didn't want to draw attention away from, like, how clearly not okay Rod was. Because I remember at first I asked him if he was okay, even though he was really obviously not, and that was, like, the wrong way to do it. And, like, I think she is too distracted by the fact that he is super duper not okay. I already know... Okay, she said, I already know how he feels. His beloved got married to another man. Yeah, and that was why it's like, she didn't ask if he was okay, because it was obvious how he felt. But yeah, no, I think the thing that does make sense to me then is because in that moment, she was very much in, like, worried about him caretaker mode, which is a, like, sort of a mentality that, at least in my experience, doesn't leave a lot of room for, like, oh, and this is hurting me too. Because, like, too much of her emotional brain is taken up by worrying about him. That's my theory, anyway. Kind of makes sense, but that is not to say that you're wrong, because I absolutely think there also could have been room there for her to be like, yep, know how that feels. It, you know, or rather, I'm not sure why, but I feel like the same thing is happening to me, and there absolutely would have been room for that in that storyline, and it's kind of a shame that they didn't, but... I don't know, I just got stuck on what possible logic can I come up with for why that would have been different than here. So yes, alright, I'm gonna get off of that tangent because I'm not sure that my theory spinning is actually useful. I still think it would have been more sense if there was a jealousy moment, but I accept your idea that she was more focused on how bad a situation he was in. Yeah, I think that's the best explanation that there could be for why there wasn't. But, like, I mean, like I said, I don't disagree. I don't think you were wrong. Like, there also, I'm sure there could have found space for that, but... anyway. So... Back to Lucette and Claude, wherein Claude is now asking Lucette if she has ever experienced romantic love, which I'm quite sure the answer to is nope, not until you. In this run, at least. This route. Lucette thinking to herself, romantic kind of love? Out loud, what does that kind of love feel like? The eternal question for aromantics everywhere. And questioning aromantics and questioning aromantics everywhere. Claude. Allow me to enlighten you. He smiles at me, and it is surprisingly genuine. Claude. It can feel simultaneously like floating and sinking. Your heart stutters and you worry about small things. About offending this other person in some way. I'm gonna just screen cap this. Although, to be fair, what he is describing feels like crush stage, which is a form of romantic love, but not the only form of romantic love. You wonder if they'll like what you're wearing, or if they would prefer a sandwich to a casserole when you treat them for dinner. It took me a long time to decide what romantic love should feel like. Yeah, that's fair. It's hard, because there's, like, a lot more types of love than I think a lot of people realize. because, you know, there's romantic and platonic and are the basic distinctions, but there's even a lot of different, like I said, a lot of what Claude is describing is very much the crush phase, but, like, as a lot of people who, like, it's especially a term that I think it probably exists outside of the polyamorous community, but it's definitely well known in the polyamorous community as far as I'm aware. The term new relationship energy, which is when you're still in the sort of, like, puppy dog love phase, and so there's the crush mode, and that's actually very similar to the, like, sort of early puppy dog love phase. But then, like, there's definitely a point at which, like, in a long-term romantic relationship, that will usually transition to something a lot, like, it's so hard to explain, but something, less energy, softer, I think, is how I'd put it. Something, like, softer, that, like the difference between a, like a super rushing river and a, like, big, wide, slow river. They're both very nice rivers, but they're just functionally very different in how they act. Does that make sense? Because that's the best metaphor I can come up with. But actually, I kind of like that metaphor. You've got the, like, burbling brook, or you've got the, like, Whitewater Rapids for, like, extreme hot, like, for the extreme emotions. But then you also have the, like, you know, big, wide, and, like, very scenic and picturesque rivers. And, like, yeah, I kind of feel like that's a really good metaphor for what I'm trying to get at with the, like, different phases of love. There's, you know, the Greek the ancient Greek, or possibly also current Greek, I don't know, has the tons of different words for different types of love, and so. But yeah, defining romantic love is excitingly challenging, and something that comes up a lot in the aspec community, where aspec is asexual, aromantic. Speaking about these stages, personally, I think now that Rod just confused a simple crush with real love, then he fell in love with Lucette, and he must have realized that his feelings for Viorica weren't real love. Yeah, I could totally see that. Like, he'd been crushing on Viorica since they were kids, and then once he met Lucette and he started really falling in love with her, he's like, oh, I see now, like, that was a puppy love kind of crush on Viorica, and now I can be happy for her, and I can move on with this, like, much more real love relationship. Yeah, like, I totally buy that, for sure. Alright. So, Claude's definition of romantic love, which I do think is mostly the early crush stage, where you first are, like, which I think is valid, right? Because that's how you first realize that you are you're potentially interested in a romantic connection with this person, as you get to the crush phase. NRE is easy to mistake for real love too, or even make you mistake mistreatment. Oh yes. NRE can be dangerous for that, in fact, I would agree. Like, absolutely. There are way too many people. We are often indoctrinated into thinking we know what it is like. Yeah. I know for me it took forever to sort my stuff out to know where my head/heart were at. Yeah, and that's fair. Like, there's a lot going on, and love is complicated, more so than a lot of people, I think, realize or give it credit for. But yeah. Anyway, so Claude's definition of romantic love, which in this case is the, like, you know, when you are first starting to develop those sorts of feelings and you're in the crush phase, is how I would interpret this particular definition so far. It can feel, and I'm going to reread it because it's, you know, relevant to the discussion. Oh yeah, and that's also a huge thing, right? About, like, also to, when you start to think that NRE is it, and then once you stop having NRE, you're like, I guess this relationship's done, because, like, that's such a hard thing if you can't differentiate between the, like, early phases of NRE, new relationship energy, versus the sort of sturdier, deeper connection that is, like, and then this has moved into, you know, moved from the rushing stream to the, like, wide, slow river. mode to lean heavily on my own analogy that I just came up with. That can definitely be a thing where people don't always recognize that transition and are like, but I'm not feeling the like excited puppy dog. I keep using the word puppy dog love and I should stop, but I'm not feeling that exciting rush of NRE, new relationship energy anymore. Something must be wrong. And it's like, no, that is a temporary state. Oh gosh, you're so right too. That's what makes Romeo and Juliet a true tragedy. Yeah. You know, people call it a love story for the ages, but they were absolutely in full-fledged new relationship energy mode. And they didn't have time for it to develop into, you know, maybe it would have developed into a deeper and stronger connection, but they'll never know because they got so crazy with the NRE love and the mess with their family that yeah. It doesn't help that we're also conditioned to not talk about it openly. Yeah, that's also fair. So, which is one of the reasons why I'm pausing here to talk so much about it, because I think it's really worth talking about. Dramatic teen infatuation mode. Absolutely. That's what was going on there with a really unfortunate, violent, and messy backdrop. Yeah, I was lucky to have a lot of real examples of true love, but I still made so many poor choices till my husband. Yeah. I won't get into... Like, I think you were not in a great place in life, but I'm not... But obviously, I know your whole history because you are my literal sister, so I'm not going to get into your whole history on stream or how I think you ended up there, but I'm just really glad you are where you are now. And that you met Pendergast and that you are doing well with that, because yeah, that's been a thing that I have watched from, like, you did in fact have a lot of bad experiences that I watched from the sidelines, and I'm really glad that you're in a better place. But yeah, so and she is also right. Like, we did have the advantage of, like, in our family, there are a lot of, like, our parents, like, really... Like, not everyone can say with absolute confidence that their parents really love each other, but we can. Society and fairy tales and such give the wrong impression of what love should be. Definitely doesn't help. Yeah. Alright. I think this was a very valuable and worth a conversation that's worth having, because I like talking about stuff like this, and like, you know, as we said, it is a thing that doesn't get talked about often enough. But I am going to focus back on, switch back into game reading mode for a bit. That's not to say that I won't break as soon as I finish Claude's in-game explanation of what he thinks romantic love is, but we'll see. Right, so Claude says, "It can feel simultaneously like floating and sinking. Your heart stutters and you worry about small things, about offending this other person in some way. You wonder if they'll like what you're wearing, or if they would prefer a sandwich to a casserole when you treat them for dinner. You begin to find beauty in all of the things that they do. Their presence makes you feel complete in a way that you had never thought of before. You try to imagine..." Okay, now we're getting into, like, something that's more like real love territory. "You try to imagine life without that person and find you cannot. To even consider such a thing is painful, so much so that it feels like it might break your heart." I like that. Okay, I really like that one. To try and imagine your life without that person is painful. Like, yeah, that one feels like a real love thing. I mean, that can also happen with close platonic friendships too, so, like, it's not a be-all, end-all definition to define romantic versus other types of love, but I do think that that's a pretty core basis in a romantic relationship, is like, you just like, imagining your life without them is heartbreaking, for sure. Actually, wait, back one more time so I can screenshot that. I bet his curse consequence is literal heartbreak. You mean like literal his heart stops or something? Maybe. Oh, and that might even be if we're assuming his tattoo, which I'm currently assuming his tattoo works something similarly to how the rose worked in Beauty and the Beast, at least in the Disney movie. I actually don't remember the original fairy tale. Then, like, there is some kind of deadline, and that also probably is how he realized that the other girl didn't really love him. Because I think if she had really loved him, it would have broken his curse. And so he found out the hard way. Oh. And that would be rough. Claude continues talking, but my mind is already whirling. Though he phrases things in a way that still feels unnecessarily dramatic. Okay, actually that's fair, She's calling out, like, the ways that he's describing it are very dramatic. Oh, sorry. Let me pause. The original fairy tale is complicated, there is the rose and the ring, etc. Yeah, and considering that Lucette pointed out that his tattoo was different the second time, it probably had something to do with his curse. Yeah, that makes sense. That's definitely my read on it. So, I also like this. Like, Claude continues talking, but my mind is already whirling. Though he phrases things in a way that still feels unnecessarily dramatic, I feel a tinge of familiarity. And yeah, like I said, like, some of the stuff he was talking about are the sort of over-the-top phase. But, like, which of course would be the stuff that he would most focus on. That makes sense, because he's a very, like, dramatic and clearly a romantic type person. But, like, he wasn't all the way wrong. Like, some of those things were really, like, and not that none of it was technically wrong, but, like, some of what he was describing really was, like, pretty universal experience. And so I actually really like that Lucette's like, okay, he's being a little overdramatic in this explanation, but there are parts of it that are awfully familiar. Lucette thinking to herself, the things he's describing, those are the things I feel when I am with him. Before I can say anything, we hear the sound of hooves, and both of us turn. I can see a procession of knights, along with the king on his horse. Lucette thinking to herself, he normally rides into town like this, but today he's not smiling, and there are way too many knights riding with him. And is that Sir Alcaster? Oh, maybe this really is the public declaration that he's, like, abdicating. Lucette. Let us go find a place to stand and watch. Claude. As you wish. I like that he said as you wish, as a Princess Bride fan. Claude walks with me into the crowd gathering around the king, and we find a spot to spectate at the very edge, closer to the alleyways. King Gennaro. My beloved citizens of Angiel, I have come before you today to make an important announcement. Ever since I was given this crown, I have sworn to live my life for the people, and to rule in all fairness so that our kingdom could enjoy great peace. The crowd breaks into applause. Okay, I don't know if he's abdicating, that's just my guess, but, like, I remember Sir Alcaster was trying to pull a coup when, in the version where we were in the palace, and so it makes sense that maybe he did the same thing, only this time he was successful. I stare at the king, an uneasy feeling in my stomach when I notice that there is sadness in his eyes, though he is smiling. Then I notice Sir Alcaster appears to be hiding a smile. Lucette thinking to herself, I do not like where this is going. The king's speech goes on for long minutes after that, with him detailing the commitments he made, the goals he set, and finally, his love for the people. The audience around us claps and cheers, but Claude and I are silent. Claude. Something is not right. I nod in response. King Gennaro. To this day I keep this promise. I would never break this oath, for it is the foundation on which I rule. The audience claps again, but I am silent, watching the king intently. King Gennaro. Unfortunately, the unwelcome news that I bring you today gives me reason to hand this foundation over to someone else. Oh shit, what? I have fallen terminally ill. Lucette, shocked. The king's proclamation is met with shocked and angry chattering from the audience. I cannot hear anything that is being said over the cacophony of voices, but I know that the audience is dissenting. I stiffen as I stare at the king. Lucette, thinking to herself. He is lying. I can tell by the... Okay, so this is... Okay, that's actually kind of better. He is lying to explain his... He's abdicating under pressure, I assume, and so this is a lie so that the people will accept it. So I think that what's happening here is in this version, Alcaster and Mithros actually went for the full kingdom takeover, and are pressuring Gennaro into stepping down, and they're making him make that excuse as something the people will accept. Yeah, it is a terrible cover, you're not wrong. Unless they plan to kill him, in which case, makes it real convenient. Everyone's like, oh, well, we knew he was terminally ill. No mystery there. Right, so... Lucette thinking to herself. He is lying. I can tell by the firm set of his jaw and the way his eyes flicker across the crowd faster than they ought to. Lucette thinking to herself. The king has lied to me so many times before that I can recognize when he does it. Buddy! Sorry, that's my... King Gennaro, you're a bad father! Your daughter should not be able to recognize your lying face on, like, instantaneously because you have lied to her so many times. That's not good. That's not good. King Gennaro. I know that this unfortunate news must come as a shock, but this is an illness for which there is no current cure. As for the question of my successor... He trails off for a few moments, and I think I see something in his eyes that hints at urgency, but I am not sure why. King Gennaro. Crown Princess Emmeline is unmarried and still too young to rule on her own. I feel a pang of irritation and confusion. Lucette thinking to herself. Another lie. Emmeline could rule just fine with the help of Sir Mithros and the others. King Gennaro. After much thought, I have come to the conclusion that our kingdom, which still continues to face danger from the witches, is best put in the capable hands of the commander of the Order of Caldera, Sir Alcaster. Lucette, out loud. What? I cannot hide my shock. The rest of the audience reacts similarly, their sudden outburst a testament to their confusion. King Gennaro. While I will be providing support and assistance from the sidelines, I cannot in all good grace continue to wear this crown when I know I cannot serve my people as they deserve. Simply put, I believe that the witches have gained more power in recent months, and that Sir Alcaster is best suited to deal with these conflicts. The fairy tale curse runs more rampant these days, and there have been more reports of incidents involving magic. The murmuring continues, except now the townsfolk sound panicked. Lucette thinking to herself, this cannot be true. I do not miss the reluctance in the king's next words. King Gennaro. Sir Alcaster has also suggested a number of remedies to our laws, especially concerning our security and work hours. I believe that Sir Alcaster can better rule this country in these turbulent times. Please show him all the love and loyalty you have shown me. Claude. That bastard! Claude has a foul expression on his face, and his words feel heavy, even in a low whisper. Alright, I'm gonna take a moment now. I just wanted to get through all of that in one run, in one go, but, oh man! So this makes sense, right? Like, I'm just thinking Mithros, before Princess Lucette was in the castle, so he knew where she was, but now he has no idea where she is, so it is probably fits Mithros' plans better to have the kingdom under his control. So, alright. We're gonna go over... and I'm gonna catch up on the chat. Sorry for being behind a bit. So, Tapao... I thought Alcaster was doing that because he thought witches and Mithros was the actual witch. Wait, what? This is a terrible cover. Yeah, that was about the terminal illness. He's doing it because he doesn't like Gennaro's way of ruling. He thinks Gennaro is too soft as a ruler. And Alcaster admires the way the late queen ruled with an iron fist. I mean, yes and no, but I'm not sure that Alcaster, I think maybe thought that a little bit, but I definitely got the impression that Mithros, like, at least in Rodsroot, it seemed like Mithros was actually mentally influencing him into feeling that strongly enough to actually consider a coup. Because it seems like, although he thought those things, he would not on his own have ever actually, like, pulled a coup if he wasn't being manipulated into it. At least that was my impression from what we saw of him and heard about him and what Mithros said in Rodsroot. His name means generic king. I think anything is not in the cards for him. Not good, Gennaro. Spreading probably false rumors that can cause a rift between humans and witches is not good. Okay, well, I know Myth is not controlling the king, but I definitely had the impression that he was not full mind controlling, but like sort of mildly hypnotizing Alcaster into being harsher than he otherwise would be, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe Alcaster's just an asshole. I'd buy that too. Like, Alcaster does also make sense as just an asshole who wants a fascist regime dictator state, military rule. So. Okay, Alcaster is an asshole. I'm assuming that this is established more firmly in later roots. I presume Fritz is, as the son of Sir Alcaster. So, that's fair. Good to know, Alcaster is just that kind of an asshole. See also. And, of course, assholes who want to run militaristic fascist dictatorships are real bad! Real bad! See also my support Ukraine flag. Fair, he doesn't need Myth's help to be a jerk. Fair enough. Alright, I will slot that information in for future reference, for sure. Alright, so. Claude being that bastard. Clearly having read the situation as Lucette did. I'm assuming, it seems like Claude is also reading this the same way Lucette is, that this is not an abdication for a terminal illness, this is a hostile takeover. And yeah, like, Gennaro, I also just want to circle back around to that thing about Gennaro spreading probably false rumors that can cause a rift between humans and witches. Yeah, like, he's obviously doing it at Alcaster's behest, but, like, dude, you could have left that part out. Like, how much more would you really have suffered? But, I mean, I guess he just has never been, he's just so wishy-washy that I can see it just being like, well, that's what I was told to do by the guy who's aggressively taking over my kingdom with a military coup, so guess I'm gonna do it! Claude has a foul expression on his face, and his words feel heavy, even in a low whisper. Lucette, thinking to herself, I know the king. He takes every duty upon himself, and he would never hand his crown to someone else. Once Sir Alcaster comes to stand on the podium, he silences them with a glare. Alcaster. Citizens of Angiel, I swear to you that I will serve you as well as Gennaro has. That being said, I also believe some changes will need to be made. Sir Alcaster continues to speak. He mentions things like curfews for safety, extended work hours, and additional taxes to go towards the knights, but I am slowly beginning to block out the drone of his voice. It's interesting how Myth is partially responsible for Rodsroot being the most peaceful. That's fair. Like Myth obviously was aware of this plan of Alcaster's, and then it's just up to him whether he wants to, like, lean into it, which is obviously the choice he made here, and I think presumably in many future routes, or if he wants to be like, hey, King, guess what? Your trusted aide is a traitor, and use that to his own advantage so that he doesn't get any suspicion thrown. Yeah. So, again, my assumption is that Myth helped the royal family to arrest Alcaster because Lucette was there, And whereas here, Lucette is who knows where, and I think Lucette is the one he cares about. So he's just like, whatever, not my business. Either that or, well, maybe it'll benefit me to get on his good side. It was Myth who caused Lucette to confess her love for Rod. I mean, fair. Good on him! Probably totally unintentionally, but... alright, Lucette, thinking to herself. What is going on? Sir... No. Alcaster must have done something to force the king into this charade. The king stands behind Alcaster with his hands clasped, eyes alert, but there is a helplessness to them that I have never seen before. It isn't long before the crowd's unsettled murmuring becomes agitated whispering. I am stunned when Claude cups his hand to his mouth and starts shouting. Claude. There is only one king! King Gennaro! Damn! Damn! Wow, Claude just went for it. There's a trope named Nice Job Fixing It villain. Yeah, in the original Root, he absolutely accidentally does fix Nice Job Fixing It. Claude grips my hand and starts leading me around the outskirts so that people cannot spot him as he continues his shout. The crowd begins to chant along with Claude, and then they draw nearer to the stage where my father and Alcaster are standing. The crowd shouting, There is only one king! King Gennaro! There is only one king! King Gennaro! Claude. Let's go, Lucette. The crowd is right next to the platform now, and the chant carries on. Claude pulls me behind him, but my mind is on my father and on his desperate eyes. Hours later, the March End's tavern is chaotic. People are talking over each other, trying to relay the scene that they saw in town today. Every visitor here is talking about what they witnessed. I have been in a corner of the room this entire time, trying to understand everyone but failing. Delora and Parfait are not here to calm all of this chaos. Okay, I appreciate that Rumple's coming over to check on her. It's good that he's getting a couple of points before his route, because I am not excited about his route currently. Rumple. Hey, princess, how are you feeling? I almost jump when I hear Rumple's voice. Rumple. Ugh, and he ruined it! And he ruined it! Surprised? I can feel when a damsel is in distress, milady. Lucette. I am really not in the mood for your flirting, Rumple. Rumple. Oh, my apologies. I thought you may have wanted some cheering up. I'm reading just everything Rumple says as excessively dramatic, and I'm gonna stick to it. Lucette, silence. Rumple. Where's your partner? Lucette. He went out to town to survey the situation. Rumple. Karma doesn't do anything around the tavern, but he does a whole lot for you, doesn't he? I suppose that's the least a man in love can do. Lucette. Shocked. I feel myself blush. Lucette, thinking to herself, what is Rumple going on about? Rumple. Princess, you're pink! Lucette. I am not. Thinking to herself, my mind feels all scrambled now. This is all Rumple's fault. Thankfully, before Rumple can continue talking, the door opens and Delora walks inside to call all of the March End boarders into the reception room. Claude can be dramatic too, to be fair. Yeah, and that's why Claude and my voices for Claude and Rumple are so similar. I know I don't do a lot of vocal differentiation to begin with, but like, I try to have like little bits of differentiation, and I just ended up with a very similar vocal tone for Rumple and Karma, because they're kind of a similar flavor of over the top, but like, Karma does a lot less of the really, really, really annoying hitting on women because of his curse, which I'm like, good. He has learned to be melodramatic in a less problematic way. When I step into the reception room, I am surprised to see two familiar figures standing beside Parfait. Lucette, thinking to herself, Emmeline and Rod. Both of them look downtrodden and discouraged. Everyone is noticeably shocked as they step inside. Garland. The prince and princess? Where did they come from? Jurian. What is happening at the palace? What of Queen Ophelia? Delora. We need silence in the room, everyone! Delora raises her voice, effectively causing everyone to pause. She glances at Parfait, who nods, and then turns to look at Rod and Emmeline. Parfait. Princess Emmeline, if you would tell everyone what you told Delora and I. The room is unnaturally quiet as Emmeline begins her story. She starts with the events of 1 week ago. In the middle of a family dinner, Alcaster burst in with soldiers and seized her, Rod, and Ophelia in front of the king. Emmeline. Sir Alcaster said if the king didn't hand over his crown, he would kill us. We had no idea that a coup would be staged. The three of them were taken down to the prison cells, with Ophelia taken to a separate cell. Emmeline. Sir Fitzgerald helped us escape, but only just barely. Lucette, thinking to herself. Fritz, are you openly disobeying your father? I hope that he is safe. Rod. Alcaster wanted to kill the king. I'm sure that he still will. Lucette. But he has no reason to. The king has already handed over his crown. I speak before even realizing. Everyone stares at me, including Rod and Emmeline. Rod. Alcaster is a foul man. I only think he usurped the throne now without violence because he wants less resistance from the people. Lucette. He never spoke up to my father before. Emmeline. Did you just say father? Lucette. Silence. Sweat drop. Rod. It's a long story, Em. Emmeline looks between Rod and I, her expression confused. Emmeline. You know each other? Rod. We do. Emmeline looks like she wants to say something, but she remains silent. Rod. Our mother is still inside the palace. Emmeline. We need to save her somehow. And Sir Fitzgerald. Lucette. What happened to Fritz? Rod. We don't know. He helped us escape, but we were spotted at the last minute. He told us to run ahead and leave him behind. Emmeline. We didn't see him again after that, and we couldn't just wait, so Rod brought me here. Delora. Right now, we need to piece together this situation as quickly as we can, and then we need to figure out a way to save the king. Jurian. I knew Alcaster was up to something, but I never thought it would escalate into this. Oh, sorry, I also missed a chat earlier. It's nice to see Rumple helping Claude with Lucette. Yeah, actually, I will give him credit. Like, it's actually sweet of him to have checked on Lucette, and I appreciate that he's actually kind of trying to, clearly was doing a little bit of wingmanning for Claude, but he could have done it with less hitting on her. On the other hand, I will also respect that when she said, I am not in the mood for your flirting, he backed off. So he can learn. I have some hope that I will not just find his entire route cringy. This is so different. Yeah, right? It's such a difference because I really think a big part of the core difference here is that Lucette's not at the palace. I wouldn't be surprised if Rumple's route ends up going somewhat similarly. But we'll see. Jurian. I knew Alcaster was up to something, but I never thought it would escalate into this. Lucette. Jurian, what do you know about this? What do you know about this? Jurian. Garland and I were stripped of our titles because we disobeyed Alcaster's orders. It was because we overheard Alcaster plotting something and tried to tell the king of his plot. We gave him a warning, but the king did not believe us. Not with Alcaster and Mithros whispering in his ears. Garland. The king didn't think Alcaster was possible of such a betrayal. He thought we were trying to turn him against Alcaster for our own gain. Jurian. And so Alcaster stripped us of our titles and banished us from the palace. Lady Parfait found us, and while we were happy to help out at the tavern, we also intended to eventually do something about the mess in the palace. Lucette, thinking to herself. So Alcaster has been planning to do this all this time. When we part for the night, Parfait and Delora take Rod and Emmeline to a room that they can share. It has been decided that they will be harbored here at the Marchen, a place that Emmeline apparently knew about but never came to because she wasn't cursed. Lucette. Well, Rod did say that his family knew he was cursed. Which makes sense. So he probably told Emmeline that he was going to the Marchen. I mean, I would bet Emmeline was worried about him and was like, you know, what are you doing about your curse? And, like, he might have even just been like, well, I've been going to the Marchen, and let me tell you about what that is, so that she would worry less. I noticed Emmeline looking at me many times throughout the night, but she never asked me anything. The next few days are a muddled mess. Everyone is busy trying to find out what happened and what can be done to help the king. I am sweeping the tavern half-heartedly one day, my thoughts on everything but my chores. Lucette, thinking to herself. Everyone's been trying to do something to help out these last few days. Though I've gone on quite a few trips into town with Claude to search for information, I haven't been able to find much. I feel so useless. I am finally on my break, so I decide to go into the reception room to rest. When I step inside, I notice Emmeline sitting on the couch. She waves me over as soon as she sees me. She hasn't really openly spoken to me since she has been here. Parfait and Delora have been trying to hide her so as to not cause a ruckus in the Marchen. Rumors are dangerous now. Emmeline. You're Lucette, right? Lucette. Yes. Emmeline. Rod told me about your curse. He said that you're the king's blood daughter. I'm really sorry. I am shocked by Emmeline's sudden outburst. Lucette. What? Emmeline. I didn't mean to, but I took your place. How could I forget my own sister? Lucette. We're not blood related. Emmeline. Aww! Emmeline's so sweet! And I'm glad that they're getting to have at least this conversation. Like, maybe it's not going to be as strong as the friendship they develop in Rod's Root, but, like, it's still, like, clearly step one to them developing a much better relationship. And I'm really invested in Lucette and Emmeline being able to have a better relationship, because they're just very cute friendship / sisters. Like, once Lucette comes around to the idea of them being sisters, like, and close friends and stuff, I think it's just really sweet and lovely. And so MC also Emmeline, the cinnamon roll, being like, that doesn't matter. I would love you regardless. Lucette thinking to herself, Emmeline was always trying to take me out and do things with me back when I was still in the palace. I distanced myself from her because I thought the king loved her more than he loved me. I still think that maybe he does. Out loud. We weren't close. Emmeline, shocked. Lucette. I barely spoke to you, or to Rod. Didn't he tell you that? Emmeline. He did. But perhaps now we can turn over a new leaf? Lucette, thinking to herself. Emmeline is as stubborn as ever, as always. I have more things to worry about than being her friend. But Lucette! Lucette! Oh, alright, Lucette, out loud. I have to go. I walk off before the conversation can continue. Okay, they will fix their relationship in all roots, but they won't be as close as they were in Rod's roots. That's fair. And I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that there's at least a little bit of time dedicated to them being in a better place in every root. So you don't have any of them end with you being like, well, too bad for that relationship. Emmeline. Silence. Lucette thinking to herself. If I hadn't been cursed and remained in the palace, would Sir Alcester have taken me hostage too? I'm officially the first thing you're watching on your new TV. I am honored. Yeah, and also Rod's root is really the only root in which they become best friends. That makes a lot of sense because, like, it's the root that is literally her like Emmeline's brother. So it makes sense that that's where you would get the closest Lucette-Emmeline friendship, because that's like such a big part of that root. But again, I'm glad that there's some attention paid to that in all of the roots. Right, so Lucette thinking to herself, If I hadn't been cursed and had remained in the palace, would Sir Alcaster have taken me hostage too? The hours tick by, and as the tavern is emptied for the day, Delora calls everyone together to explain what she and Parfait have pieced together about the situation. Delora. Alright, everyone. We've come upon some new information. The first is that Sir Alcaster has cracked down on the riots in town. Anyone seen protesting his rule is thrown in prison. What was that I said about a military dictator fascist state? Lucette, thinking to herself. The king always valued the people's opinions. Alcaster does not want opinions. He only wants to rule with an iron fist. Delora. Our patrols have showed that there is overall more security in the palace and around the town. They've been charged with keeping people quiet in whatever ways they possibly can. As we heard from the prince and princess, things are most turbulent in the palace. The king is still alive, but it is unlikely he will stay that way for very long. One thing is clear. Given Alcaster's motives to take over the kingdom, I doubt he will rest until the king is dead. The king's men have turned against him, and even if there are loyal soldiers left in the palace, we cannot contact them right now. Gotta run, we'll catch up with the rest later. Fair enough, bye, ta-pow. Waltz. Rescuing the king and queen will be on us, then. Delora. We just so happen to have people in this tavern that have a shot at rescuing them. Prince Rod has the key to a secret passage we can use to break into the palace. Lucette, thinking to herself. Secret passageway? But only the king and the commander of the knights have a key to that passage. So how did they get a copy? I mean, we got that explained in Rod's route, like, Parfait had a key from, like, long ago or something. Delora. Who's going to join us on this mission? Jurian and Garland both volunteer immediately, followed shortly by Claude and Waltz. Lucette. I'll go too. The room goes quiet as I step forward and volunteer. Parfait. Princess, we can't just allow you to put yourself in danger. I look at Claude, who is staring at me, shocked. Lucette. I took up the sword so I could protect those I care about. Claude. Princess, you don't have nearly enough practice. Lucette. But I can help. I still have time to learn. Delora. I agree with Parfait, Princess. The palace isn't the place for you to try out your newfound sword skills. Lucette. Then you may as well chain me up, because I refuse to stay here while you all go save the king. Parfait. Princess. Jurian. Well, she has been practicing with the rest of us. Delora. Don't encourage her, Jurian. Jurian. But it's not like any of us can stop her anyway. Thank you, Jurian. Do encourage her, Jurian. Claude. You're right. The princess is quite stubborn. Claude agrees with Jurian, but I can tell that he does not like the idea of me going along with them. Waltz. If only we had the time to get reinforcements from Karma's country. Rumble. Karma's country? Claude. Brigantia. Rumble. How is it possible that a Brigantian citizen can simply ask for reinforcements? Ugh, yeah, you're not wrong. Parfait, we can't put you in danger. Me, you already have, Faye. She was attacked by two guys because you left her on the streets. Yeah, that was really... They really should have picked her up. Like, it's definitely, like, it feels to me like Delora was like, she should learn what it's really like to be a peasant in the streets. But, yeah, they did still actively put her in danger by, like, just leaving her out there. Rumble. How is it possible that a Brigantian citizen can simply ask for reinforcements? Claude, who has not told most people who he is. Silence. Waltz, deciding to give that information out to people on Claude's behalf. Karma's the crown prince of Brigantia. There's some shuffling in the room as everyone turns to gawk at Claude. Rumple, Annis, Rod, and Emmeline all look shocked by this revelation. Emmeline. You're the lost prince? Claude. Lost prince? It sounds like such a tragedy, doesn't it? Annis suddenly looks distressed as she fiddles with her thumbs. Annis. All this time I never knew. I'm so sorry, Your Highness. Claude. There is no need for formalities, Annis. Annis. But... Claude. I am the lost prince, after all. I kept my lineage a secret because right now I'm just a normal commoner. Rumple. But you're the prince! Couldn't you still ask for reinforcements? Claude. Even if I did ask for reinforcements, I'm pretty sure they would never come in time. Besides, I can't go back to my kingdom yet. Lucette, thinking to herself. He cannot go back while he is still cursed. The conversation continues in a more solemn tone. Eventually, we start speaking of our plan to enter the palace. When the details are all finalized, I repeat everything to myself to make certain that I know what is meant to happen. Lucette, out loud. Waltz will lead us to the palace then, and Jurian and Garland will follow right behind him, watching for the most immediate enemies. Garland. Leave it to us. Jurian. We'll deal with any resistance before it touches you, princess. Lucette. And Karma will be watching from the back, along with Delora. Delora. A witch and a prince for backup. Delora smiles wryly. Claude rolls his shoulders. Claude. I'd like to think of it as more the closing act. Though, if all goes according to plan, we will have no need for either the opening or the closing act. Lucette, thinking to herself. It is a small task force, which is better. The smaller the better. The last thing we want is to be noticed. We decide to meet again over the course of the next week to finalize our plan and carefully survey the situation in town before parting. Claude has taken to training me. Yeah, and I'm just sitting here being like, okay, so why does Alcaster not just kill the king the second he gets back to the palace? But I'm realizing he probably knows it would be suspicious if the king died too soon. So I think it's reasonable for them to be like, okay, we can assume we've got, like, at least a week before he, like, just jumps on king murdering time. Claude has taken to training me, Jurian, and Garland at the same time. Just the other day, he had all of us attack him together. Even though I am nowhere near as good as a trained knight, I still managed to hit him once. Lucette, thinking to herself. I feel like things are coming to some sort of conclusion, and yet I still haven't done 3 good deeds. Today, we finalize our plans for getting into the palace. We have mapped out where the king and Ophelia must be in prisons, where the guards might be positioned, and how we plan on sneaking in. I sit down on my bed and am about to lay down when I hear something. Claude. Hello, love. Lucette. Very blushy, shocked. Claude. My, you're red. Were you thinking about me? I notice that he has one hand on his chest tonight, but then he has been doing that more often lately. I notice it during practices, and sometimes when I catch his eyes. Lucette, thinking to herself. Is he sick? Claude. Darling? I shake myself at the sound of Claude's voice. Lucette. What if I was changing? You could have knocked. Says Lucette, who barged in on Claude's room without knocking twice? Twice? Both times catching him shirtless? As Claude rightly points out. Claude. Well, you didn't seem to have a problem when you walked in on me changing without announcing yourself. Lucette. Very blushy. That's different. He strolls inside and steps closer to me. He smiles at me mischievously. Claude. Oh, how so? Lucette. Silence. Claude. Cat got your tongue? Claude shakes his head, his smile softening. I really didn't mean to come in to disturb you. I just have something important I needed to say to you. He will call her out, yeah. Yep, okay, he did. Yep. Sorry, that was a little bit of a delay between the chat and the stream, but yeah. Nah, I appreciate that he immediately called her out on that. Claude kneels in front of me and furrows his eyebrows. I want to insist you reconsider going to the palace with us. As Parfait and Delora have said many times, it will be dangerous. Lucette. Nothing you say is going to change my mind. I want to do what I can to help everyone. Claude. Yes, and that terrifies me. Lucette, shocked. Terrifies you? Claude. If your stubbornness leads to you putting your neck out there for someone, I would never forgive myself for your injuries. If you want to help me, stay here, where you'll be safe. Lucette. I am not some damsel that needs to be protected. I can actually kind of sympathize with both points here. Like, I absolutely think it is Lucette's right to go and be involved in this if she wants, but I also can totally understand Claude being, like, downright terrified that she's gonna, like, bite off more than she can chew and get horribly injured. Claude. Lucette, all I want is for you to say stay safe, so that when we save your father, you can face him with a smile. Lucette. I won't be able to face my father unless I am one of the people to save him. Claude. Stubborn as always. I sigh, irritation welling up in my stomach at the look on Claude's face. Lucette, thinking to herself. He's calling me stubborn, but he's being stubborn about this. Out loud. You said I've improved with my sword fighting. Ah, I like that little shift to the smile. Claude. You have. You've improved so much because of your resilience and drive, and because you're genuinely interested. Lucette. It's because I have a good teacher. Claude. Oh, your compliment is gentle music to my ears. Your compliments mean a lot to me, Lucette. My eyes fixate on his soft smile and at the gentle crinkle at his eyes. Our eyes lock, and for a few moments I am aware of a slight energy between us. Yeah, especially since she doesn't have as much experience in fighting as the knights. Yeah, that also definitely makes a lot of sense. I was gonna go check and see if my other light is on, but it is, so never mind. Yeah, she's very inexperienced, and like, yes, she's getting better, but she has, like, no real combat experience. And also, like, Claude's not wrong. She is very prone to, like, jumping in. And, like, in cases where she is into things that she's not necessarily fully prepared for. Oh, right. Let me reread that. My eyes fixate on his soft smile and at the gentle crinkles at his eyes. Our eyes lock, and for a few moments I am aware of a slight energy between us. I glance away hurriedly, not entirely sure of what would happen if I kept staring at him. My heart beats unsteadily in my chest. Claude. Earlier today, I comforted your sister when she started crying about the things that had happened in the palace. Lucette, thinking to herself. Emily? Why would he comfort her? Claude. I saw her crying downstairs in the reception room earlier today, without anyone there. She is a rather sweet girl. I keep thinking that the two of you are completely different. You're both strong-willed and stubborn, but she wears her emotions on her sleeve, while you keep it all inside of you. Lucette. I am not hiding anything, if that's what you are implying. Mother always told me crying was weak. Claude stands up and leans forward. Before I know it, I am in his arms. Lucette. Shocked and very blushy. Claude. Lucette, I'm always here for you. I feel flustered again, and my mind feels foggy. I can barely comprehend what's in my mind, or in my heart. I don't know what she is sorry for, but I'm leaning towards that just because typically I avoid the ones that are the sort of more affectionate answers, and thank you feels like the more affectionate answer. Like, overtly affectionate, I should say. So, I will have Lucette say, I'm sorry. I wonder if it's, like, foregoing even though it's distressing him. Maybe. Claude. For what? Lucette. For my stubbornness. Claude pulls away from me slightly and raises an eyebrow. He chuckles. Claude. Oh, but your stubbornness is one of the many things that I like about you. My heart thumps loudly. Lucette. Like? Claude. Oh, I meant... Oh, shit. Oh, that was the thing. That was the thing that something's happening with his curse again. Suddenly he steps back, his hand on his chest again, his breathing heavy. I stare at Claude with wide eyes. Lucette. Claude, are you okay? Claude. I'm fine. He sighs out slowly, but he sounds obviously pained. Lucette. I'll go get Annis. Claude. No! Lucette. Shocked. Claude. I'm fine. I'm fine. I swear it. It's just a spell of dizziness. Lucette. But you... He manages a small, tight-lipped smile before he straightens and shakes his head. His hands are visibly shaking. Claude. I must be tired. Lucette. But Claude... Claude. Do not tell anyone about this, okay? I don't want them to worry. Lucette, thinking to herself. Why is he always so stubborn? He's obviously in pain. I mean, on the one hand, she's not wrong. On the other hand, pot, kettle. I clench my hands into fists as I frown at him. Lucette, out loud. Why must you always be so secretive? You're keeping something from me, Claude. Claude. I'm sorry, Lucette. Claude abruptly leaves the room, leaving me with my fragmented thoughts. Wait, was that the wrong choice? Because I don't think I ever saw the right choice indicator, so let's just go back and play that again, and then that'll be the end of the chapter, it looks like. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Wait, no, I saved at the choice, like I always do. We got this. I really thought sorry would be the better answer, but no, I guess at this point, it does... I was going with the trend of the game, not with what actually felt like the most accurate answer. Lucette, I'm always here for you, responding with thank you actually does seem very sweet, so let's see how that one goes. So Lucette says, thank you, and Claude says, you never need to thank me, Lucette. Lucette, but you've done so much for me. It is not just the sword fighting, it's your patience, your company. You're saving me when I needed help. Claude. That's not true. I'm pretty sure I'm the most selfish person in this tavern. All I ever want is things for myself. Okay, I see why this is a correct choice, because it ends up being really sweet, actually. Oh, I like, it's like, thank you for everything you've done for me. It's like, I like it. And then he's like, what? I'm not. Oh, just... Lucette with her adorable smile. I never thought you were selfish, Claude. Claude. Silence. He puts a hand to my cheek and looks at me solemnly. Claude. You don't think that me wanting you is... And there it is, and that is the same thing. Because it triggered the moment he had a rush of emotion about Lucette is what I'm seeing, I think. That's what I think is happening. And yeah, it looks like everything else was as we saw. Alright, so things are getting exciting. Chapter 9 will be the rescue, so we'll get to see the exciting rescue mission, and then I assume at that point something is going to come to a head involving Claude's curse, and then presumably it'll all get resolved with a happy ending in Chapter 10, because I have put much effort into making sure we get the good ending. I really appreciate the right choice indicator, because, like, as a person who really prefers to always get the good endings, like, because, you know, different people like different things, and, like, sometimes when I've played other otome games, I've looked up other people playing through the bad ending, but I don't like playing through the bad choices to get to the bad ending myself, because that's just not what's fun for me in an otome game. Like, I have occasionally seen bad ends that were, like, surprising, like, had good stuff in them, but for the most part, I'd rather, like, watch someone else play it, or... rather than, like, play a whole run just to aim for a bad end, so. But then, you know, nothing wrong with people who do want to see the bad ends. Like, some people really like, you know, tragedy and sad things, and that's okay if that's what you like. It's just, I like happy things. I admit it. Her smile is really adorable. There's even a very beautiful GC with her smiling. I'm glad. I like her smile. Like, you're right. She is, like, her little smile is just so cute. Like, anyway, I do love this story. I'm really excited. So we're getting to the exciting climactic bits, and then there's, should be 2 more chapters left of this. So next week and the week after will be the end of Karma's route, and then we will start on Rumple's route, and I'm really hoping that Rumple will pleasantly surprise me. We'll see. I mean, he has shown evidence that he's capable of being kinder and sweeter than he normally acts, so we'll see. Yeah, the right choice indicator is great for people who want to avoid the bad ends, like me. Yeah, and like me. Like, that, I love that feature, the bad choice indicator. I would love it if, like, every otome game had that, but I can understand, like, why they wouldn't, I suppose, but I'm just really happy that this game does, so. Right, alright, so that does it for this week. Let's make sure I remember to save, because there have definitely been times I've not done that. But if I save, and then I go to the main menu, then I'll be sure I've saved. I love how it actually is saved on the exact same image of Turvian in the forest. Alright, so yeah, so that is the conclusion of Chapter 8. As noted, I will be back at it with Chapter 9 next week, same time, same... I want to say same bat time, same bat place, but I guess it's more same Cinderella time, same Cinderella place. Otome time, Otome place, I don't know. But yes, so I will be back at it with Chapter 9 of Karma's Route next week, Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much, everyone who has come out to watch me. I appreciate you all so much. Like, I'm gonna try, we'll see how this goes, but I'm gonna try to do personal call-outs, but, like, particularly, so, like, my sister, Captain Kiarda, Tapawa Vulcan, Johnny One Take, who is mostly lurking, and then, like, I'm actually gonna say especially Tapawa Vulcan, and especially Ice Starmie for being here and, like, really engage, like, being here and chatting and engaging in the story with me. I appreciate you all a lot, and I appreciate everyone who watches me, even if you're just lurking, even if you just have me up in the background, even if you're just watching my VODs later in the background. Like, just thank you for being interested in enough in watching me play the thing that you are watching the thing. I appreciate you all so very much. And so my next Cinderella Phenomenon stream is going to be next week. My next stream of any kind. I might see if I can fit a short stream in on Wednesday, but otherwise I may have to skip my normal Wednesday one, which might mean that my next one will be a short stream on Thursday, but we'll see. So, and I'll definitely be streaming on Friday, my normal Crystallis thing, but that'll be, I'm gonna update my schedule, but that's gonna be 2 hours earlier than I would normally do it. Aw, thank you! Thank you! Thank you for coming to watch my stream. I appreciate it a lot. So, you are all great. I hope to see you all again soon. Bye!